धेरै रोइसकेँ यार यो कुरामा, अब मर्नु मन छैन। त्यसपछि त्यो मान्छेले मलाई के भन्यो भने मैले तेरो ब्यागमा 20,000 रुपियाँ हाल्दैछु, यु निडेड मनी, द्याट्स वाइ यु टोल्ड मी टु हेभ सेक्स विथ यु एन्ड द्याट्स वाइ आई डिड दिस टु यु, द्याट्स वाइ वी डिड दिस भनेर भने होइन। आई वाज लाइक स्ट्यान्डिङ इन फ्रन्ट अफ द डोर बन्द थियो, naked. I was looking at the money, I was looking at the guy, and I was looking at myself in the mirror. I couldn't believe what had happened to me. I mean, I couldn't believe that I could get raped.
You get so desensitized to your trauma that you eventually, like she said, like she stops crying because she's cried over it so much. Also the fact that she can laugh about it. I'm sure some Nepali people would be like, oh, your ass is hard, obviously it's fake, she's acting. But like, you don't realize, like, once you're so desensitized to your trauma, you start being able to laugh about it, because for you it's just like, it's not a joke, but it's just like, it's fun.
It's a defense mechanism.
It's a defense mechanism, and at the same time, because she's realized how silly people around her are, that she can just laugh about it, whereas in the time she was probably like so fucking hurt by it.
Yeah.
So like, it's just like, oh, it just keeps getting worse.
I know. I don't know if I have like the mental or like the space in my heart to like listen to more, but we gotta do it. We gotta do it.
We're not, by doing this podcast, by speaking our opinions, like, we're not saying it to seem as if our opinions are right, you know, like, we're not trying to act superior. We're not saying that like, this is it, like, this is clear cut, black and white, because nothing in life is black and white, you know. So
Hi everyone, so it's me. Today I have my sister Tara, and we thought we should make a video about this situation that's going on, and basically we have a lot of like these talks together, and then we kind of thought that we should maybe like branch out what we talk about, and then, you know, like share our thoughts and stuff, and then hopefully like maybe other people can resonate, and maybe also like awareness wise as well, maybe like someone can learn something. We just want like a space to talk about these things, because we feel like they should be talked about. Okay, one now.
Yeah, so we just watched Sushmita.
I think that's her name. Yeah,
Sushmita's
Sushmita.
video.
So yeah.
So what are your initial thoughts? First of all, like,
yeah, like, I mean, we don't want to talk about the backstory a lot, because obviously you guys can, I think we're gonna put it in the description,
course,
like, so you guys can just go and watch. But
in the end, it's rooted from her story. So,
yeah.
So like, initially what I thought after watching everything was just like, first of all, like, just props to her, sad to say, like,
literally
to be able to go through that much but still have the heart to, and like, thankfully to stay alive, and to just like be able to educate and like bring more hope for other girls,
and the fact that it actually has started like something, you know, there's like protests going, and then there's other people that have come out, and it's become a whole movement. I think this is exactly what we need, like, especially Amro society ma. I don't think she originally started that way. I think she's obviously started as her just wanting to heal and just wanting to like get it off her chest. Just one little tiny spark of bravery and courage, like, this is what leads to like a whole revolution, and I am so glad that it's turning out positively. I think we should touch up on like some of the things in that, like, 'cause there's a lot of layers, you know, there's a lot of like victim blaming, there's a lot of misogyny, there's a lot of like lack of, say things like even sex education going on, like, especially I think in our community. Initially we're actually just angry, like, we're actually very angry, like, especially being like women ourselves. And then the way that, for me, okay, I think my biggest thing I got from all of this was obviously like this girl, like, it didn't just happen like just once, like, this girl has been going through it like her whole life. And for most people, like, I think what they go through, like, they keep it shush, obviously because of the whole victim blaming and stuff. But the fact that this girl actually called for help so many times, like, not once, not twice, like every time she did something, like, so she always has kind of been brave, like, from the beginning, okay? Like, from the first incident, she, you know, like, involving the boyfriend, and the fact that she'd been open with all her relationships. So like from the get-go, she's like, okay, this is what happened to me. Because most people, like, they try to hide these kind of things because they think that, oh, I'll get judged, and they don't want their partner to see them in that light. So but like really I feel like personally, I don't know if I would be that open with my partners about those situations.
The worst thing, like, you know how she was talking about when she went to like the other winners of the pageant, right?
Yeah.
And that one girl that said like, why are you bringing this up, like this kind of sexual abuse, like everyone goes through it, like why are you bringing it up? And that's just like, that's what I'm saying as well, like there are this, we all know that this happens, like especially I'm sorry, but especially in like Asian society, because like, I mean, I'm not saying Western society is also as much corrupted, and like the industry as much corrupted, but like I think it's just different for like Asian society, because there's way more like pride and like more victim, like more shame in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of sweeping under the rug.
Exactly. And so when she says that, it's like, that's the thing, like everyone knows this kind of shit's happening, but no one does anything about it. And that's the thing, like so many girls do go through that, especially in pageants, especially like in acting, everything, but like they don't say anything about it. But the fact that she has like the courage to step out and speak about it, but now she's being looked down on because she spoke about it. And it shows you, like, that's why so many like females, but also even like boys that, you know, are sexually assaulted in their childhood, they just don't ever speak about it because there's just so much blame on them.
And I think they were really, because we also saw that there's not even like legal things in place like for people to go through that route. Like, whereas say for example here, like every place I've worked in, there's always been like a whole section on sexual abuse and sexual assault or something. And even if you talk like sexually to someone, that can be taken forward, you know what I mean? Like, and that's like the little tiny little trickle. But in her case, like she actually went through so much, like such traumatic, like harrowing experiences that like I'm still in shock that she actually stepped out and even talked about these things. Like, even as me, like growing up like in this kind of Western, modern, like progressive environment, I have like been in situations where I feel like, you know, I can't talk about it, but props to her, like being in Nepal and being in such a like close conservative society, she actually was like, you know what, this is what's happened to me, I need help, you need to do this about this. And still people didn't listen, and then they had the audacity to now be like, some of these people are saying to her like, oh, this happened 2014, this happened 2016, like why are you saying it now? And like the thing is, she actually said it, like, you know, like
before I watched it, when you were explaining to me previously, like I thought like, oh, maybe she's only coming out with it now, like maybe she's kept quiet the whole time, but the fact that she went to people like personal, you think people close to you would actually care enough to like take action, but no one did anything. And more like the one, like her boyfriend's telling her like, don't say anything, like it's gonna make you look bad. Can we talk about how in Nepalese society it's sort of like, how is the rape victim the one that is more like,
so this is what I mean. So for example, so I come to them like, oh Tara, this is what happened to me. Their first thought is not like, oh my god, who is this like person who raped you, like who's this person? It's more like, oh no, this happened to you, like you're the it's about the person, like the victim. It's like when it should be all about like,
no one's asking questions about the perpetrator, like no one is saying anything. And it's like, that's when you realize it's because like the laws are so loose that everyone knows that the sexual abuser is not going to get anything for it, like they're not going to face the consequences.
That's a but I think stigma, like
honestly, so like,
because they see you just as a rapist, and they think like, oh wow, no one's gonna marry you now, especially if you're a woman victim. They think like, oh, you're labeled, you're branded as someone who has been raped.
Exactly. And whole then, like, no one's gonna marry you now. Like,
but then rapists are getting married every day, like
why?
So, but why isn't it like, oh, you just raped a girl, like no one's gonna marry you?
Exactly. It's like, oh my god. And you know, what was playing in my head the whole time was like the fact that, of course, it's all down to the fact that women are seen as like objects, right? So like they're like a doll, say, and like men have this weird obsession with corrupting women, and they feel like once a woman's, especially in terms of virginity, you know, like virginity is apparently so much more sacred for women, but it's so different for males. And like, don't even come at us with like, you know, like, oh my god, but no, because we are females and we have seen it within our sisters, we've seen it with our aunties, we've seen how uncles and fathers like talk about sex when it's to do with girls and when it's to do with males. So like there's this obsession where boys, once a girl's lost their virginity, they really think that it means she's done, like she's corrupted for life now. Like there's no going back to like the pure, like innocent, like oh my god, untouched doll. And it's disgusting. It's actually disgusting. And the fact that when someone goes through something like sexual abuse or like just domestic abuse, victims tend to follow a cycle.
And I think this is exactly what happened to this lady, because and you know, I don't think it's a surprise that every single person she dated ended up being like that kind of guy. And I think what also happened is like, because they think she's corrupted, so they have this image of her that she's this kind of like sex doll or something, that she's gonna willing to do these like nasty dirty things to you that you wouldn't get from like an innocent girl who hasn't been corrupted before.
And like the whole like, oh, like you've already been raped, so that means I can rape you now, like.
But that's so scary. Like, so in that sense, like, why is he thinking like a rapist? Like, why, if he's in a relationship with her, he should think, oh, like, you know, regardless of what, like, he's still getting to have sex with her though. So why is it like, oh, I get to rape you? Like, why does the thought of being with her without her consent and forcing her to be with him is more like thrilling and do you know what I mean?
For him, than, like, it's a pleasure. Like they think it's more thrilling and like it's more like, it's like bad, like it's fantasy.
Porn. I think it's like porn as well. Like I think
it's like more of a fantasy for them. For them, it's like, rather than like someone who's like got like
willingly being with you, and it's like about like being
with like the dirty girl who's like been with multiple men and like stuff like that. And it's like exactly porn. Like there's a reason why the rape genre is so popular in porn, and that's scary, that's frightening, that people idolize that boys like look for that, and that they get turned on by forcing themselves against other girls. And it's scary. That's, you know, like the whole victim cycle. It's like the only reason it's stuck like that is because exactly every guy that she was with after her first assault suddenly saw her as someone new. Like they didn't see her as someone that deserved to be looked after or deserved to loved. Not
or I think maybe they also even went into the relationship because obviously she's been so open from the beginning that they went into it knowing that she's like that and they can use that against her. You know, they're like, oh yeah, she's this broken girl that I can do whatever with, like, because I think some guys have this really twisted like idea of women, bad girls, like, you know, girls who like have had sex or this and that, and they think they can have that kind of like passion or like more. All I can think about is like TV shows like say Skins or whatever, you know, how that kind of like hedonistic lifestyle is so like glamorized that people want to be testo khalko केटीहरुसँग, which they know that they, you know, like if they had dated someone like in their books like normal that hadn't been touched before, or that hadn't like, they knew that they would get like a different kind of relationship out of them. Whereas I feel like they went into these relationships with her knowing that she'd be that kind of girl for them, that she'd be that like sex star or porn star or whatever star they probably idolized her to be.
And think about how manipulative that is for her, because then if all she's,
I think she fed into it for a while though,
because all her life every man she's been with has treated her like some kind of like literally like a sex robot. So like that can do stuff to someone. You think to yourself like, is that all I am here for then? Like, is that what I am?
I think like for her it was definitely love though. Like she probably thought that them being with her in that way, and also because some of these guys played the whole fucking nice guy thing like so into like the ground, like so they save her from another bad guy just to then become the bad guy themselves.
And you know how like she was saying like 2 weeks into a relationship, like he was nice for 2 weeks and then his true colours came out. And I feel like that happens quite often. Like boys will try anything to get with you. They will try like be the perfect man. They'll be fake, like they'll pretend like, oh my god, like women deserve everything, blah, blah, blah. But once they have you,
I initially thought it was just about that beauty pageant case, but man, like my heart breaks for this girl, okay, Sanchi, like oh my god. And to think that this is just one story, okay, like, and I'm sure there are people who have been through this times 10, 100, like, you know. And then it's so crazy because they always say to victims like, oh, you should talk about it, like she fucking talked about it, you know. And then so society did so wrong to someone who was so brave and came out and stuff. So imagine like the millions of other girls and boys and people that are going through this that don't even have, like, you know, an ounce of courage that she's had. So
not even that, like, it's not even like she told people and they didn't believe her. She provided evidence, she showed what happened, and they saw it, they believed it, they knew it happened, but they were still saying like, why are you bringing
oh my
this
god
up?
You know that girlfriend of the guy who like molested her, basically it's like her reaction was, oh, like if you wear short clothes and drink with boys and this and that. Not for a second this girl was thinking, oh my god, my boyfriend just raped someone.
Literally.
Like,
and she's probably still with that boyfriend.
Like, not for, like, why was that her reaction? My first reaction would be like, you did what? Like, you know, to my boyfriend, like, to think I would, that is like a door closed, like, you know, let alone like, okay, let's not expect this girl to have any sympathy because obviously she was like gone in the head. But like, even if you don't have sympathy for the victim, even if in that situation she didn't feel like, oh girl, are you okay, because obviously that would be the normal thing to do, her first reaction was like, oh, blaming the girl, like nothing about the boy, like, and she's gonna spend her life or what rest of her relationship with this man knowing that he raped somebody.
Exactly.
Like, how is she gonna look this man in the face every day?
But she's not gonna see any wrong in him. Because, but you, like, behind doors, you don't know what he's saying to her. He could be saying,
but not like, that though. But so she, in that sentence, she admitted that her boyfriend did that.
Literally, but she's saying, "Oh, my boyfriend has no control over his desires because you are wearing a skirt." And like, you know, we always talk about this, but like, men do this thing where they really want to be dominant, right? So they're always powerful, they're strong, they're like strong-willed, they're our CEOs, our prime ministers and everything. But then when it comes to like sexual things, they suddenly lose all control of their dominance and their power, and they suddenly become unable to control it just because a girl is wearing something above her knee.
And this is so stupid though, because it's like saying, okay, but let me give you guys some, like, you know, girls have desires too. Like, it's not just men out here. Because do you think like guys are having sex with themselves all the time? Like, girls have sexual desires, you know, like we have them too. And it's like, I just don't understand.
It's like scientifically as well, if you think about sexual desire, it's due to hormones and everything. But like, you can't even be like, oh no, girls don't feel this. It'll be like, we get boners though, girls don't get boners, blah, blah, blah. Because like scientifically we have the same amount of hormones that release, like, you know, sexual stimulation as you guys. But why is it that we can control
as you
it,
guys, like, you're talking to men, like.
Sorry. But like,
I'm sorry, she doesn't mean all men, okay? Let's just clarify, because also if you get triggered by this as a man, then you're the problem. But do you know what I mean? We're talking about this specific case. And
anyway, so what I was on about was I really feel like some males have this obsession with like girls that are mentally ill. And there is something that is so
it's the whole
sickening about that. And like, we need to find that word, but we don't know what it is. But it's like, they literally sexualize mental illness so much, like daddy issues.
Do you know why that is though? I think it's because mentally ill, like not just girls, mentally ill people, they're vulnerable and they are easy to manipulate. So that's why I think they go for these kind of people, because then they can manipulate them and they can like feed into their insecurity, and they can. I think it's also because they probably obviously have a superiority, like some kind of god complex, like, so they know that if they go for these kind of people, then they will become their savior, they will become their god, and then they will be worshipped in that way, and then in turn then they can do whatever they want with them, because they will be like, look left, they will look left, you know.
And it's sickening that you can think that that's something like to look for when you look for girls. And it's just like, why are you taking advantage of someone that's already been broken so many times? And the reason I was saying that was because I know that many people, like especially Nepali people, will be like, you know how she was jumping from relationship to relationship, and like she kept justifying it. But girl, like, you do not need to justify wanting someone to love you and wanting someone that listens to you, especially after everything you've been through. And like, people will chat shit and say like, oh, but she's like, oh, she's a hoe for like having a man every week and but like, you don't
actually
realize.
I thought of it the other way. Like, I thought of more of how, like, props to her for like still believing in love, you know, the fact that she was still trying. Like, I think for most people, like, if that happens to you first time, and I know people in real life like that have been like, there are survivors of like sexual abuse and stuff, and then they go on to like wanting to be touched and never wanting to even like make eye contact with another human being again. But like, props to her for actually like still believing in love and still believing that she can be part of that,
Exactly.
you know.
And that's why she was saying, you know, when she was saying like she just went numb, like after a couple of times, like she just goes numb. And that's when boys think it's okay. But like, she's not saying, she didn't, just because she didn't say no, not mean she wants. And the fact that she went numb, because at that point she's just so desensitized to it, and they still took advantage of that. And like, I think definitely for you as well, what struck me the most was how she started off the video when she was talking about like, she didn't think that she would get raped. Because you think, you always have hope. Like, what is wrong with us? We always have hope. So like, even in like today, we think like, you know what, like, this is getting better, like more girls are safer, but it's never really the case. And it's so scary. Like, so she was talking about how like a girl like me, like I was so strong-willed, I did this, like, you know, like I never thought that I would get raped. And like, you know, I think about it too, like we always have that fantasy that, oh yeah, like if I was ever about to get kidnapped, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, whatever. But like, it literally can happen to
anybody. Like, literally, like, especially Janas in Nepal, made this cases, these kind of cases coming left, right and center. Okay, like, I think this only got quite really media attention because of a lot of influential people being involved, and herself, I think she's like a quite I think she was already quite like a big thing on Instagram, you know, she was a makeup artist or something. But yeah, and that's why. But you know, I'm seeing news about like 5-year-old girls getting raped, like some man raped a 70-year-old woman.
Babies.
Like, you're telling me like these little babies and these like really really old bitara, like they might not even, like, they can't even walk properly, like these kind of ladies are getting raped. Like, how are we gonna blame the victim? Okay, like, how, where in your mind does it make sense to blame the victim? Like, what was that 5-year-old girl doing to allure a man to look at her in that way? What was that 70-year-old woman doing to make a 25-year-old man like look at her in that way? Like, it's never been about the victims, okay? Like, never, and it still isn't, and it's never going to be. But it's,
and if you're still victim blaming today, like, you're just stupid. Like, you're
what are you doing it?
I'm just saying, like, anyone could be watching this, anyone.
Yeah.
Like, that fucking, the one that abused her could be watching this, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He's in jail now, so.
As he should.
As he should.
How are we gonna go from a... Yeah. Thinking about, like, the whole beauty pageant industry and everything, but, like, a lot of male, like, child models are very much taken advantage of in this industry too. And I think we should talk about that as well, because abuse against males tends to be overlooked sometimes. Like, I think that's also a very important thing to look at. Like, it's like, especially like actors and singers, like as children they just get so like predated on by big producers and stuff,
and then people use their dreams against them. Yes, because obviously at that moment you feel like you will do anything to achieve your dream, and then that gets used against you. And my god, like, this is just making me mad. Like, because the whole time we're reading looking at the videos of that girl, I was just thinking like, but what is the solution? Like, how do we go from here? Because obviously we're talking, and I'm sure we're not the only people making these kind of videos. Like, the whole world is talking, okay? Like, and we've been talking for a long time. Like, these issues have been going on for a long time, but it's like, what is the solution? Like, where do we go from here?
But like we get so overwhelmed by like everything that goes on, like all the bad things that we sometimes, like, you just have to think about everything good that has happened though, like but just because right now like we're like, oh, there is no solution, does not mean that we stop fighting. The worst thing we can do is just sit around and just take what's happening, you know. Like, you'd never think that the smallest thing you do, the smallest impact you make, the more awareness you raise, is going to add to the bigger picture, you know. Like, so many revolutions have started, like this, the Me Too movement, but also in Nepal, this certain video, just one girl has started another revolution. So the worst thing that anyone can do is be like, what's the point of all this, what's the point of this movement, like, when the world's never going to change. And it's like, just stop living then. Like, what is the point? What is the point in this world if you can't fight for what's wrong, you know? Like, you can't just sit around and just think that you shouldn't do anything just because it's never going to change, because you never know that. Nothing is determined.
I think specifically from our video, like, what I want people to take is like, we need to be really conscious, like, especially men and boys, because obviously I can only speak from my experience, because from what I've found is it's mostly like men that talk very insensitively about these topics, joking about rape, and then the way some men in my life talk about women and girls. And yeah, I think we just need to be really conscious. People think that it's very like, oh, like harmless joke, like it's just a bit of fun, like it's all banter, but it's like, what happens is like these things then kind of start like a little chain of the bigger things. Like, so you start from, you know, you think your language isn't important, you feel like, oh, I just make rape jokes, but I've never actually raped anybody. But then these kind of things then lead on to the bigger things. Okay, like, you know, the way you talk about women then becomes how you think about them. And then, do you know, like,
what you watch as well will impact as well.
Yeah.
Like, if you're watching porn about rape, like, that's a tag that should just not even be real. If you're watching pedophilic tags and shit like that, like, you might be watching it just because you're like, because you know, like, you might say like, I'm never going to do this in real life, like, obviously, but you never know how much it influences you, and like how much it's going to influence your body as well, in terms of like what you get turned on by. And it's just wrong. Like, when she was talking about like the whole women's biggest enemy are women, I think that is something that we should talk about as well.
Definitely true.
Especially in like Nepalese society, I think the whole anti culture is so the whole anti it sounded like anti. So anti culture is just so harmful, especially to the girls of our generation. And it's just like, as a woman, you'd think that you'd want other people to understand, like other girls to understand you, but there's just some girls that just don't.
Yeah, from me, what I took from that was like, obviously it's because we live in a very patriarchal society, and obviously, like, first of all, like, women, especially us, like girls, like unmarried girls, and especially, like, we're seen as more like honor of the family rather than as like human beings. But why they react the way they react is because they still hold like men so high, and they hold men like above themselves. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I think,
and it's the way they've been raised. Like,
obviously, like, it's a whole system, and like that's why we're a society, like that's why we're the way we are, okay? Because things like, you know, we're raised to like put our brothers before us, and it's like,
literally, I was gonna say little things like, you're raised to be the ones in the kitchen while all the men are in the living room, like drinking the tea you've just made, just discussing like business, and you're the ones, like, you, as you grow up, you're like feeding your brothers, and like we love our brothers. We love our brothers.
This is not
like,
personal.
It's not us being like bitter, but at the same time, it's like,
but those are the
they
little
don't understand
that...
how harmful it is to make women think that that is just what their job in life is,
and that you are inferior to your brother or your dad. And then, like, I don't know, like, you know, just, I don't know, like, maybe just sit for a moment and think about this in your own household scale, like the little everyday things that like are so patriarchal. And I think this is where it stems, where then guys get a pass for so many things, like even as far as being a rapist, like they get a pass for, and then we don't even get a pass for being abused, like when it was not even our fault. We just need to like start raising men like better, honestly, because I mean, like, they get excused for a lot of like massive, very toxic behaviors where girls get like punished, or like they get attacked for like very minuscule behavior. And I think that's where like this about it starts the bigger problems. And I think people are like, oh no, like it's not. But like this is where you change, like if you change socialization, and if you change the way you raise people and the way you raise your kids and the way you communicate with your friends. And then I realized like growing up, and then especially in this society, is not about learning new things, okay? It's about unlearning the stuff that you already know. And I think that's harder for a lot of people. Like it's definitely hard for me, like personally, like it's definitely hard to unlearn everything you've known your entire life. So but we have to, like, if we want to live in a better society, and if we want like anything to change, then you really have got to get out of your comfort zone and like and make conscious decisions every day. Sit with your thoughts and like say to yourself, like, is this what I think, or is this what I've been raised to think?
Because I think we have that mindset that, you know, like our aunties, our fathers, our mothers, they won't change now because that is how they're raised. And like okay, then like if that's how it is, then I think my generation has to feel the pressure that we need to be the change. Like we have to realize that we can't just carry on these harmful practices that we've been raised as. Like it's on us, because I don't think they realize like it's on us to raise our children the way
to break the cycle. Like we need to break the cycle. From this girl's case, there was this other case about the headmaster, I think the principal of a school. So that as well. And I think it just baffles me how most of these cases are like minor cases. And I mean, like sexual assault to anybody is really, really sad and like, you know, brutal. But I think that even more is like knowing that it's happening to like little girls and little boys. And then especially in institutions like schools, like the very place that's meant to protect them and make them feel safe is doing that to them. And you know, because especially at that age, you're actually spending more time in school than you are at home. Literally, like you're spending most of your day at school, like because you just come home like for a few hours and you just go to sleep, you know what I mean? Like, and the most time that your brain is active and working is at school. And the thing, that's the place that some of these kids are getting abused and getting manipulated and getting like,
and like because like some of these kids could be facing the abuse at home. So like school can be a safe place, like it should be a safe place for them, but like the fact that it can't be, it's just...
Also, another thing I want to say is like, so you know how this girl, like she did, I'm sure her parents know now because it's all out there, but to like this whole time, like she didn't tell her parents, like, when I have a daughter, like, or when I have a son, like, and if any of them went through this, I would want to hopefully have raised them in a way and created such an environment that I would want to be the first person that they come to, and then for them to feel that I will protect them and I will make them feel safe. So, you know, she shouldn't have had gone through this for so long, okay? Like, she really should not. Like, this should have ended, like, such a long time ago. And then her parents I feel like they should have been a very like big part of the story the whole time. Like definitely in our culture, like we need to create spaces where even if it's not the parents, like if you are a sibling and you have siblings, I feel like we really need to create that space for our siblings that they can come and tell you these things. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and I would expect that from our relationship, like definitely. And
but then like the whole parenting in the police society thing is like
but that's the thing though, because you are like, parents are telling their kids like, oh, don't go out at night, don't wear these kind of things, don't do this, like there are boys like this, we're just telling girls what not to do. And like, is anybody sitting their sons down and saying, oh, don't go out at night to rape girls? Like, I feel like that is just as much a valid conversation to have with your son as much as you are having with your daughters. And because you are telling these things to your daughter and you're not creating that space for her, that they definitely won't tell you because they know that they'll get beat or they'll get scolded or something. And then like they won't get the support that you need. So I think we need to like really work towards building a better support system in our community, like within our homes. First of all, okay,
and for boys and girls, but like
definitely,
I think definitely at this point, like safer for girls.
Yeah,
mainly. It's like as from a young age, like young girls are raised in fear of boys and men because of what their mums and dads tell them, like don't go out night, don't wear this, don't that, like that. So then it's like, I don't know why it's such a shock when girls have to fear men, and it's like I think some boys tend to like forget the fact that we're raised as a child to fear men. So when we are angry at men, they attack us, and they're like, not everyone's like that, not everyone's like that. But it's like when you're taught and you're like, it's been put in your brain that a man's gonna come out and like attack you, like you can't just trust anyone. And I think that's a very hard thing for some males to accept, especially if they're like a good person. And it's like, we want to believe you're a good person, but it's just so difficult after
like
being
we
scared of
definitely
you
don't want
life.
to go out into the world looking at every man and be like, oh my god, he's gonna rape me today.
Exactly.
Like that is not what we want, okay? But that is sometimes the harsh reality of things. And talk like I don't want to get emotional.
What I was leading to about when it's like the whole like, oh, it would never happen to us, is like, it's actually scary, because like even us, like without going too much into it, like we'll have known friends or like family that have gone through those kind of things, but like they haven't obviously gone further with it, because this kind of thing, like sexual abuse, is so hard to prove, and it's so hard to like fight a whole case against it, you know.
I think there's also blurred lines with this sometimes. Like I find, especially in Western, like especially in England, is like, I think especially with the drinking culture, because there's so much like drinking culture, especially at uni and stuff, where I think there's a lot of blurred lines where the person who was assaulted themselves is confused if they were assaulted, because you know, they were drunk and they can't remember, or you know, or maybe they gave consent and then halfway decided not to. So I think there's a lot of blurred lines where people are so like, they don't want to accept as well. I think that's why they're like, oh no, like I must have wanted to do it, because they don't want to accept that happened to them. And I don't know, why can't people just,
and like it's like that post recently, that's literally like, it was like no still means no even after being convinced to say yes, because it's true, like so many girls will not want it, but then they'll feel bad about it, like they get so gaslighted, they get so manipulated, like their boyfriends will say, like their boyfriends will be like, oh but please, like, you know. And it's like,
I mean, like, well, if you have to beg for it,
exactly,
like
you
you
should
still
not,
want it.
you should not be having to beg your wife or your girlfriend to have sex. Like if she wants to have sex, she will come and tell you that she wants to.
Trust
like,
me, you will
exactly.
know.
So like it's just like sometimes like so many girls will have sex just to like shut their boyfriends up, or like to shut their husbands off, and like that's so bad, because I feel like sex is becoming a thing where like it's so pleasurable to men, but at this point like so many girls are not enjoying it because they like not ready, but they still had to go ahead with it. And I think that's really like, yeah, it's like really bad. Obviously I know like some girls like really do enjoy sex, but like it gets to a point where like sometimes sex is seen as like,
yeah, I feel like sex is very seen as like a man thing.
Yeah,
it's like it's very much owned by men, like it's their thing, like all men want sex, all men want
and that's the
sex.
thing, like
but
it's normalized for men to have sex.
Exactly, but the thing is, there are men out there who are not raging animals that are just out there like just whipping their dick out, like, oh yeah, who's gonna have at it. But to be honest, like this mentality is so toxic for men as well, and I feel really sorry for men out there, to be honest, like, because at the end of the day, when stories like this emerge and we have talks like this, men are just seen as like brainless, like, because I think what happens from this is then we cease to see men as humans as well. So then we start seeing them as animals, because that's how like these stories and these events come across. So I think this kind of situation and this kind of upbringing is actually so harmful to men as well,
It is.
because then it really like invalidates men as conscious, compassionate humans, which I really believe that men have the capability to be. I was originally angry, but this is just making me sad now. Like,
It is very
like, this is
sad.
the society we live in.
Why is it always like male versus females? Like
it shouldn't
why
be
is it having to be like
there.
that? And then it's like
Like, I just don't understand when these stories come out, it becomes so like, oh yeah, like let's stand up for feminism, this and that, like as it should, but I feel like, why can't just humans come together as humans and be like, okay, this person is in trouble, let's fight for this person. Like, why does it have to be a gender war? Okay, like,
why are guys you thinking that when a girl gets raped and like everyone's bashing like the abuser, why do they take it personally? Like,
yeah,
they find
why is it
they
about
say
you?
they find it personal and they're like, oh yeah, but like, you know, like, like,
because
or
they
not
don't
all
want
men
to,
are like
we're
this,
not
like,
this
blah,
person.
blah,
Yeah,
blah.
we're not saying
It's like,
you are.
we're just asking you to feel empathy for the girl that has been raped and abused. Like, even if it isn't a girl, even if it's a male, like, just feel empathy and
the
feel
victim.
sympathy for the victim. Like, just because this is like a case where like a man has raped a girl does not mean it's all the women
Like
are like
men
raging
versus
against
women.
men. It's not like that. Like, rape can happen to anyone. It's like you just have to understand the victim and like be on the
it's
side
not
of the victim.
about you, okay? Like,
Exactly.
it's not about you. Like, the thing is, in this case, it's not even about us. Like, it's about the survivors. Like, we should be listening to them, and I just wish, yeah, like, why can't we just listen? Just listen. And I know, like, when these kind of cases happen, like, then people, like, statistically, men, they bring up like cases where men have been falsely accused, and you know, they're like, oh, like, you know, those cases in India, I think, like a man hung himself because some girl accused him of rape, and then I think the criminal justice system was very harsh on him, and then the media was very harsh on him, and then so then he just couldn't take it. So he like, you know, that I really like, my heart breaks for that man, like, rest in peace and everything. But in that situation, like, still shouldn't have been men versus women, because I think the criminal justice system failed. You know what I mean? It's their job to do their research, do their investigation, and find who the culprit. And in that situation, the girl should have been sentenced or criminalized or whatever, because she was like
in the way that the justice system fails so many rape victims into not having their abusers be sentenced. In the same way, the males that are being falsely sentenced are also being failed. Like,
yeah, exactly.
just like when we talk about it, like, we're not putting one down to bring the other up. Like, we're talking about both situations, and we're feeling for both situations.
Yeah, exactly. But just, you know, just because there were some cases of like false cases and everything does not mean that we should stop listening to victims, because maybe there's 10 stories out there and like half of them is true and half of them is false. But then because you think that, oh my god, there must all be lying, then like we're doing so wrong to the, you know, half of the victims that actually went through it and stuff. And then I don't know, just believe the victims, man. Like, because say even if they were not a victim, you believe them originally, and then say they get proved to be wrong, then you get to have the last laugh, okay? Whereas like if you already don't believe them from the beginning, then you've already done them wrong. Like, they've already lost the battle. So like, I don't think we don't really lose anything from not listening to victims.
You know that man that like committed suicide, they like, isn't it too late at that point?
No,
like,
but it's like, that's what I'm saying, then the media shouldn't have got involved. Like, why is media like broadcasting a situation that like that wasn't even finalized?
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then maybe even if that man was proven guilty by the court, then that's where the court went wrong. So like, then they should like sit down and like study and realize like where they went wrong and what they did wrong, for them to like come to that conclusion that was so wrong. I mean, I know it's not the same case, but like there's cases of like people being hanged to death, and then turns out they were not guilty.
Yeah, like,
so,
death
sentence. So death sentences, things like that. And then what people did in those situations was some countries, most countries, they got rid of the death penalty. So then that person then can still have a chance of appealing and like still fighting for their innocence.
Really complicated.
It's
a
very
really
complicated, but we know that there are situations like that, and like it's very heartbreaking. Like we wish it wasn't like that, but you can't use that like, you know, like a handful of cases to like disprove an entire movement and disprove like an entire community of people that are suffering. You know what I mean? And I think I want to go back to the point of just not making this men versus women gay. Like it's like we're never gonna get anywhere if we're always fighting, like if it's always white versus black and men versus women and gay versus straight. Like we're never gonna get anywhere, like if we don't stop like categorizing ourselves into these little boxes and like and just start working together as humans. Like I know like you're straight, like, you know, I'm a girl, this and that, but at the end of the day, something we have in common is we are all humans. And I think if we just started seeing another human being as just another human being, then I think we would definitely feel more compassion and kindness and then be able to help each other a bit better.
Yeah, but like just because everyone should be treated as human and like, you know, like there shouldn't be like a war against each other, doesn't mean that these movements should not be a thing.
Exactly. But that the whole movements are so that we can be seen as equal.
Exactly. And I think it's just like, whether it's like white people or whether it's like men, so like, you know, like the majority of people, like they shouldn't, they just need to realize that by this movement happening, it's not to make the minority superior to the majority. It's just for them to have the same opportunities, the same safety, the same like treatment as the majority, you know.
And the thing is, like, there is always going to be like disadvantaged groups. I think no matter how much we work towards like a progressive future, I think it's a little bit like superficial to say that there will ever be like a completely equal society, because I don't think we can actually ever do that as humans. Always be like disadvantaged people. So what we need to work is like, we need to then recognize our privilege in whatever group we are in any society. Like say for example in England we are a minority, right? But when I go back home, like when I go back to Nepal, I realized how privileged I am, like being from a higher caste, being from like a kind of like an affluent family, you know, like where we go to like, so, you know, going to healthcare, going to like government offices and then like getting that privileged treatment and everything, and like not everyone gets that. So I think it's just recognizing that in whatever community you are in, like recognizing your privilege and like checking your privilege, or then understanding that there will always be some people that need a little bit of elevation. I think to me that's what real equality is. Not like that, not that say we're in a group, like in a room full of like, you know, like white people, black people, gay people, this and that, girls and boys, and then like handing everyone £5 note and being like, okay, like I've given you all like the equal amount of money, whereas like one of them could just have like 20p in their bank and someone already has like 10,000. So like that £5 means something different to everyone else. Okay, so like that's not equality to me. So then if giving them like what they need,
is that not equity?
I don't know the terms, like, you know, fuck terms, but like I'm saying that not my equality, okay? It's not my equality, like personally. Personally it's not like me handing out fiver to everybody, like, because I know that that fiver means different to different people, but it's about recognizing what specific person needs and then helping them with that need specifically. I think lots of people fail to understand that, like, especially with this whole men versus women thing. They're like, oh, if you want equal rights, like, well, do you want to compete against men in the Olympics? Like, shut the fuck up.
But it's also like, just people need to check their privilege. Definitely. And it's because they don't realize, they're like, they just think like, why should he get more treatment just because he's the lady?
Yeah,
it's like you have not looked at yourself and what you have in your life, which is different to their life. You know, you have not looked at the experiences you have went through. Like, you guys have not experienced the same life, and that's based off your gender, that's based off your like race and stuff. You know, like check your privilege and like realize that like you may need less of what someone gets, you know, and because you already have that, just be grateful for what you have. Like, don't feel bitter just because it seems like someone's getting more than you when they actually just need that extra push to be on the same level as you.
think there was some quote like, but I forgot. It's like, say, where your start is where like my success is or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, so where your start is like where I've, do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, I haven't heard it, but I get what
Yeah,
you're trying
like,
to say.
yeah, it's just like, so for a privileged person, like where they start is like it could be someone else's like finishing point. Let's wrap it up.
That was good. I think that was a good explanation, because it really, like, we started exploring what we will explore soon, because we're not only going to talk about feminism, we're going to talk about...
Yeah.
I'm talking as if this is my channel.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay.
In this series, this is what we plan to do, because
we just like talking, first of all, and then we just wanted to share our talking with other people, basically. So, you know, take it how you will. But
and like, discuss as well. Please do discuss,
please.
like, anything at all in the comments, like any questions. Like, it may be that like there's something that you don't know much about. I mean, we're not Google, but like anything else, just
also, like, if there was any points you wanted to add or any points you wanted to counter with us, like, feel free, you know.
Because and by like talking as well, like, I know sometimes we may come across as aggressive, especially me. I'm really sorry, but like, it didn't mean in like a bad intention at all. I think it's just my rage was just increasing, and I was sorry about that.
Okay,
so definitely do put in your thoughts. And definitely do check out Sushmita's video as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It definitely needs more awareness and more...
And I would say, maybe, if you like it, share it.
Share this video.
We really are looking forward to doing more of these. It sounds really pretentious, but literally, like, I'm really living it. Like, I feel like we can do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we really can. Like, I think we've had enough of like sitting around and complaining about the world and whatever's going wrong with it. Like, we need to start like doing things. Do you know what I mean?
And looking at the bigger picture as well.
Definitely. So, well, we really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as much as we enjoyed chatting.
I thought you were going to say chatting shit. I was like, chatting shit about what? About men? Always.
But yeah, like, we just want to wrap it up with saying big props to Sushmita and any sexual abuse survivors out there. Like, we just want to say, you guys are amazing, literally. Like, you guys are like the catalyst I feel like we need as a society at the moment. And I feel like, thank you for your bravery, thank you for your courage, thank you for your story, thank you for your truth, and for inspiring us to make this video. And
I hope it helps you understand that none of it is your fault at all. Like,
definitely,
you know, no matter how much people shame you, how much you feel like you're ruined, like, no, none of it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for listening,
and hopefully catch you on the next one. Bye.
You want to make it half an hour?
You gonna make it longer?
Yeah, I thought we were going an hour.
Oh, okay, let's just do an hour and then we'll just snip, snap.